There were 4 versions of this album released, and there just might be a 5th, because White Pony by Deftones turned 20. And to commemorate this milestone of an album, not just for Deftones but for heavy music in general, today I want to talk about what made this album so special. White Pony is definitely a turning point in Deftones' sound and career, which made them a household name and an example of how to grow and mature the right way, without giving in to trends. Mature is a word that is tossed around very freely around metal bands as their career progresses, but very few actually live up to what this word stands for. But Deftones managed to do that in spades throughout their career. On White Pony, Deftones expanded their original sound and embraced elements of different genres, coming up with even more unique sound that separated them from nu metal scene. While nu metal was hitting its peak with many newcomers of the subgenre selling millions of records, Deftones intentionally went against the grain. Gone was the rapping by vocalist Chino Moreno. Gone was the formulaic predictability of their peers, because no song on this record sounds alike. In the lyrics of White Pony, Chino was not talking about his personal experiences with bullies, anger and suppressed emotions which were very dominant in nu metal. Instead, he chose to tell more abstract stories, which did not involve him directly. With every track being different from each other, the thing that tied the songs together was the mixing of the record, done by Terry Date. A very ambient and live-sounding mix that still feels very much like a record made in the 90s, before overproducing, overcorrecting and overcompressing of 21st century took place. But writing unique material did not come easy for Deftones. A lot of finger pointing and clashing between band members took place.
Hey, what are you doing? Why don't you mind your own fucking business? No, what are you doing right there? Abe, I got a great idea. Why don't you play this? Hey, fuck off, I'm the drummer. Do I tell you how to play guitar? Yeah, whatever. Hey, are you gonna sing at all, or are you just gonna fucking fool around on the guitar? Hey, fuck you, what are you doing? That's pretty much the song, right? And then someone leaves.
The biggest conflict happened between 2 main songwriters of the band, Stephen Carpenter and Chino Moreno. As Stephen was entering the studio with an intention to make the heaviest record yet, while Chino intended to expand his musical horizons and wanted to explore a more mellow and atmospheric sound. And for the first time as the member of Deftones, he picked up a guitar. This made it hard for them to find common ground. But after some time into the recording process, things began to click when the band began to work on a song titled Change, which became the first single off of the album and probably contributed to the success of the record, because the single performed well on the music charts upon its release. Frank Delgado, who finally became an official full-time member of Deftones, helped to connect and round out most of the tracks by adding atmosphere and eeriness to the album overall. His contributions added yet another element to the record that separated White Pony from metal bands on the market at the time. Even though the record was doing well, as their hit single Change was a hit and entered top 10 music charts, the executives at Maverick Records wanted to make more of a profit, because they saw these crazy numbers sold by other, more radio-friendly nu metal artists. And the executives were saying that there was no song worthy of being released as the second single to promote White Pony. Of course, they were probably looking for something more radio-friendly than the record had to offer, but still, what a crazy statement to make. Can you imagine that the label thought that none of these tracks would be good enough to represent the album? What about Elite, for example, that earned a Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance in 2001, or Digital Bath and Knife Party, that have become fan favorites over time? This just shows that the record label didn't have much faith in White Pony, because they chose to deceive the audiences by releasing a song that was a poor representation of the album. The label insisted on making an additional song by asking Deftones to reimagine the existing closing track of the album, Pink Maggot, as the executives thought that the chorus of this track was catchy. The band did just that in order to prove how easy it was to write this kind of songs. The new single was titled Back to School and featured Chino's rapping, because in the opinion of record label, rap rock was the selling point in the year 2000, which was probably true at the time, but the rest of the album was something entirely different. To make this track officially part of White Pony, the album had to be re-released about 2 months after the original issue of the album. I hope that this marketing move actually made some extra profit for the band, because artistically, Deftones were against this idea. This incident planted a seed of mistrust between Maverick Records and Deftones, which led to complications in the future. Because Chino lost confidence as a music writer, and when working on Saturday Night Wrist, there were other songwriters involved, helping Chino with his parts, because he was hitting a major writer's block due to the mistrust and pressure from the record label. This just goes to show you don't mess with an artist's creative process, unless they are Britney Spears, of course. There was a promotional music video shot for Street Carp and live montage video for Digital Bath, but they were not aired or sold as singles. I sure would have loved to see a properly produced music video for literally any song on this record, other than Back to School, which was not a terrible song but definitely out of place on White Pony. It felt like it belonged in one of their previous records. 3 songs on this record featured unplanned guest singers. Rodlin Getzig's performance on Knife Party elevates this track to a different level, sonically and creatively. Scott Weiland's uncredited backing vocals on RX Queen doesn't add much to the sound, but serves as a nice Easter egg on the album. While Passenger featuring Maynard James Keenan of Tool is probably one of the best guest appearances in metal history. But an idea of Maynard being featured on the record was something that the band was opposed to initially, because they did not want to have a quote-unquote celebrity appear on the record to give the album credibility. But the song was actually written in a casual 3-day jam session with Maynard when Deftones visited him in LA, as Chino was friends with Maynard. When the time came to actually record the song, Chino tried different approaches for his vocal parts, but Maynard's melodies from their jam session in LA just kept popping up. So the band caved and called Maynard to be featured on Passenger. But in the end, all these complications led to this landmark record, as great art is often born from conflict. Even though this is the best-selling album by Deftones to date, when looking at the numbers this record has sold and comparing them to the numbers their nu metal peers have sold, one thing is clear: Deftones is not a mainstream band, which was something the executives at Maverick Records failed to understand at the time. And if it wasn't for the inclusion of Back to School, White Pony would have little to do with nu metal. Even though virtually everyone in metal world knows and respects Deftones, their music is not for casual listeners. In 2000s, probably everyone has heard about Deftones, but their music was a lot harder to really get into. I think it required a little more dedication than a casual metal fan had back in the day, because with White Pony, Deftones have become a much more nuanced group of musicians. I know that this was the case for me, as I really got into their music only in 2006, and I know many people of my generation that were simply going through this rebellious teenage nu metal phase, and today they can't even recall a band called Deftones. And I think this is what made White Pony so special and groundbreaking, because the band could have easily capitalized on the popularity of nu metal at the time, like many others did, but they chose not to, so that a record like White Pony could be born. And to this day, Deftones have not changed their stance, which made them one of the most respected and influential metal bands of the last 30 years. I mean, if you ever tried to put a metal band together, 80% of the ads that look for musicians will always mention 2 bands as their main influences, and one of them is always Deftones. Can you think of the second band that is often listed as an inspiration for young, aspiring metal bands? If you do, comment their name below, and of course, leave your thoughts on White Pony and Deftones. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe if you are new here, ring the bell, and very importantly, don't forget to turn on all notifications. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.